So good day, we're going to learn the Igeres HaKodesh, fourth section of Tanya, Sacred Letters, chapter 23, letter 23. We're in the middle of the letter. We are on page 272. And we are 4 lines from the top, in the middle of the line. Vazel Marazal. Vazel Marazal, and regarding this issue of the Shechina resting, which is different than receiving reward, as we learned yesterday. Vazel Marazal, and regarding this, the Chazal say, there is no reward in this world. You want to get reward? Reward is in the Elam Haba, not here. Because the idea of reward is associated with hasaga, with comprehension of godliness, and that is not applicable or not possible in this world to have perception of God. When the soul strips itself from the body and returns back to its maker, and we have the concept of Olam Haba, the world to come, over there we have the idea of reward, which is the idea of comprehension of God, Hasog and Elikus. And this is also considered a kindness. To you, God is chesed. For you repay everyone based on their behavior and action. And as the sages say, Hashem gives special koyach to tzaddikim, and since tzaddikim earn it, they get that reward. Conversely, even angels, Avram, it's very unique that the Alter Rebbe says this in Tanya. It says that I think only in 2 places. One in chapter 35 and one over here. Just as I heard from my teachers, plural, referring to the Maggid of Mizrich, who heard things in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. Ki'ilu, and what is the teaching that he heard from the Maggid? Ki'ilu nimtza malach echad. If there were to be even just one angel, who would be standing, Menashe, please mute yourself, who would be, no, you didn't, who would be among 10 Jews, if there was an angel that's amongst 10 Jews, and the Jews, even if the Jews are not speaking words of Torah, they're just hanging out together. Tipel Olav Emosa. God's fear would fall upon the angel, Pachad, Bligul, V'Taklas, in an infinite way, B'Shchinta, the Sharia liar, from the Shechina that rests on the 10 Jews that are congregated together, even if they're not learning Torah, and they would melt, and the angel would melt. An angel! Abraham, what's greater than an angel? If an angel finds himself with 10 Jews, he would melt. He would be so impacted by the Shechina that rests on the 10 Jews, and the 10 Jews are not learning Torah. They're just sitting, they're just hovering around each other. That's what he says. The impact on the angel will be to the point where the angel will be annulled of its existence completely. Now the Alter Rebbe says, therefore, it is no good in my eyes. The action, the behavior that's done under the sun. That means, that's an expression of something that's done in this world. Bechlal, generally speaking, of Efrat, and specifically ben Achai, amongst my brothers, Verei, and my friends, referring to Anash, the Chabad fraternity, the Chasidim, Hanigoshim El Alai, which come close to Hashem. Hagosha is tefillah. When you say Hagosha, coming close, like Vayigash, it refers specifically to prayer, to tefillah. V'achar tefillah, and what happens? After davening, or lefnei, before davening, before the actual beginning of davening, or after davening, Nase Moshe Leishon Rachman l'Islam. It becomes a sitting place of scoffers. It becomes a scoffers hangout, God forbid, because people are just chit-chatting either before davening or after davening. And Chazal already say two people that sit. They're sitting. And there isn't words of Torah. The Chazal, use a very harsh expression about those two people. So and if there becomes a dweller's place of scoffers, amongst 10 Jews, in which the Shekhinah rests on them. So in other words, look at this phenomenon, Velvel. You have the concept that the Shekhinah rests on 10 Jews that are together, but what are they doing? Scoffing, wasting time, talking Dvarim B'Teilim, before or after davening. Says the Alter Rebbe, there is no embarrassment, there is no disgrace for the Shekhinah that's greater than this. Rachman l'Islam, God forbid. And the Chazal say, since the Chazal say that someone who desecrates, transgresses a mitzvah by doing a sin, privately, he pushes aside the feet of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence, Chas v'shalom, God forbid. So surely, someone who does a sin in public, he pushes aside the entire presence of the Creator, from speaking. Commercial cost of Razal, as the sages say, I and he and I, God and such a Jew who's involved, or a group of Jews who's involved in idle conversation. We can't dwell in one room. And what you're doing is you're creating that the king is chained is tied up in chains. You're taking Hashem, who is in the world, especially who's in the situation because Shechina Shruya, because there's 10 Jews together, and you're tying him up, and he can't release himself. He's here, but he's bound. He's a prisoner. That's what you do to God when 10 Jews sit around and before or after davening, they're just schmoozing, and wasting time. It's a quote from the Zohar. Woe are to those that push away the divine providence, the divine presence. And they push aside the presence of Hashem. And Hashem says, and wake up for your dust and rise. And the Alter Rebbe continues, this is he's chastising them. There are 3 reasons why the Jews are in Golus al dakin l'shchinta. You hear that? Number 1, because they push aside the Shechina. Number 2, val the avnin kolana b'shchinta. They make embarrassment, they cause embarrassment to the Shekhinah, etc. It says in Zohar, he says 2 out of the 3. Okay, so this Avram is the problem. Now listen to what the solution is, Avram. Okay, ahuvai achai. We're now going on top of page Kuf Lamed Zayin. Therefore, my beloved brothers, V'rei my friends, again referring to his Chasidim, the Anash, and all others. Al no toreyu hara hagdoil azois. Don't allow this big evil, big bad, right? Hara hagdola, this no good, this great no good situation to happen. V'utnu kavod l'Hashem Elokeichem, and give honor to God your God. B'terem yechshach, before it becomes dark. What does that mean? V'hainu, this means, when is this? Bein mincha l'mayrev, between mincha and mayrev each day, between the afternoon and the evening services, mincha and mayrev, kol yemei sachol, throughout the week. And what should you do? Instead of just sitting around and chatting and waiting for mayrev, you finish mincha, and you wait, and instead of sitting around and doing nothing, lilmaid basara pnimiyas haTorah. 10 people together should study the inner teachings of Torah, called pnimiyas haTorah. Shehi agoda shebe sefer Ein Yaakov. This refers specifically to the Agadic sections of the Talmud that's found in the book called Ein Yaakov. And Chasidus HaTorah, and there are the secrets of Torah in those stories of the Talmud. Genuzim ba are hidden in the stories that sound like fables, Avram, Menashe, Velvel, fables, Baba Mises. They're actually the greatest secrets of Torah in the Agadah, it's called. Okay? And when you learn that together in a group of 10, the Alter Rebbe says, it atones for a person's transgressions. As this is explained in the writings of the Holy Arizal, this is regarding the esoteric teachings of Torah. What about the revealed teachings? When it comes to the way that a person should conduct himself and follow in them, and a person should place upon himself this advice in regarding to heavenly and worldly matters of Kiyadu, and it's known to every wise person. Stop. So this all is the conclusion of this first suggestion that we learn Pnimiyas HaTorah between Mincha and Ma'ariv in the context of learning Ein Yaakov, Agadah stories of the Gemara, which contains in it the secrets of the Torah. V'gam, number 2. V'gam lilmoi, the Alter Rebbe says, you should also study at that time, ma'at b'shulchan aruch. You should study some Shulchan Aruch, Oire Chaim, the daily laws of living life, Hilchas Atzrichos L'chol Odom, laws that are necessary for every person. And regarding this, the sages say, whoever studies halacha, Jewish law, every day, chuli, shehein halachis, brudois, supsukos, these are very clear and relevant laws. Halacha l'maisa kemevur b'pirush Rashi zal shom, as it's explained by Rashi. So you should study that. You should study that also, halacha. Okay, so 2 things so far I've spoken about: studying the stories of the Torah, which most secrets of the Torah are embedded in them, in the form of this, and also in the form of the book called Ein Yaakov, which compiles all the stories of the Talmud. And the second thing he's recommending is halacha. This is during the week, it seems. Now he says with Shabbos Kodesh, when it comes to the Holy Shabbos, Ba'alois mincha time, on Shabbos itself, not Erev Shabbos. Yasku behilchas Shabbos. At that time, you should study the laws of Hilchas Shabbos, of Shabbos. Why? Ki hilchas rabse l'shabbato. I'm sorry. Hilchas rabse l'shabbato. This is called the great laws of Shabbos. If you look into the Siddur of the Balatanya Avram, you'll find this in towards the end of the Siddur. Since there are so many laws regarding Shabbos, it is very easy for a person to desecrate and violate Shabbos because they don't know the halacha. So therefore, study the halachas of Shabbos so you'll be more careful and you won't violate Shabbos. Afilu be'isa kodesh uskila, some of the violations of Shabbos that one is not aware of, if they don't study the laws, involves prohibitions that is decision, kares, uskila, stoning. And the reason is it's because they lack the knowledge. So they desecrate the Avera. And the Shikagus Talmud, the accidental behavior comes from not studying enough. So therefore, it's considered an intentional sin. In other words, your excuse is, a person's excuse is, I didn't learn, I don't know. Yeah, so start learning. You can't say, oh, I don't know. You don't know. If you don't know that you have to learn, it's one thing, Avram. But we're telling you, take out a Shulchan Aruch, learn the laws of Shabbos, and you'll become more aware, and you won't desecrate the many of the laws, right? And your excuse that you don't know is not excusable. That's what he says. Surely, when it comes to rabbinic prohibitions, there's so many details of rabbinic enactments, and specifically when it comes to prohibitions of something that's called muksa. It's not a Shabbos designated thing, so it's called muksa, and you don't know the laws. And meanwhile, Shabbos, for example, just Avram, do you know on Shabbos, the silverware that's on your table, if you don't use it, you're not allowed to play with it. You're not allowed to just pick it up and throw. It's muktzah. Why? Because that silverware has been designated for Shabbos use. So if you don't need it to eat your fish and whatever else, you're not allowed to just play with it. You know how you hold you hold sometimes in your hand, you play with it? It's forbidden. It's muktzah. So I don't know, who would think of that? I know it because I learned it from my Rebbe, my teacher, when I was 15, 16 years old in yeshiva. Then later, when I learned myself the laws, I saw that as well. I'm just saying that there's so many things on Shabbos that if we're not informed vis-a-vis learning about it or hearing it from a teacher and all that, then you don't know. So the Alter Rebbe says that the lack of learning is not an excuse because you should be learning. And that's why he's telling us here to learn the laws of Shabbos between Mincha and Ma'ariv, or Mincha time, each Shabbos. And he says, we know the rule that the prohibitions of the rabbinic enactments are even stronger, are more severe than violating words of Torah. We're not going to go into it why, but that's as the sages say, whoever desecrates rabbinic enactments, even if it involves a very minor, lightweight type of prohibition that the rabbis decided that it's forbidden to do it. The Alter Rebbe gives an example. For example, someone who eats a full meal before Ma'ariv. Now, you know, if you have a minyan kavua, set minyan, you're allowed to, whatever. But if one doesn't, before Ma'ariv, you're not allowed to eat a full meal. You can maybe taste something, but a full meal before Ma'ariv, you're not allowed to. Now that's a rabbinic prohibition. It's not a biblical one. So who cares? Big deal. Says the Alter Rebbe, no, because since the prohibitions of the rabbis are stronger than the prohibitions of the Torah, violating that little issue, which seems to be to you, to us as lenient and not important and big deal, it actually is a worse blemish on your soul than violating a Torah law. Chayav Misa. And the law is Chayav Misa, you're obligated death, as though you desecrated the most stringent law of not fasting Yom Kippur, eating chametz on Pesach, etc., etc. Yeah. The whole yochid, and every individual, al yifresh atzmai min hatzibur, don't separate yourself from the congregation. Afilu lilmoid inyan echot, inyan acher. You see, this is what I told you yesterday. You come to shul, it's between Mincha and Ma'ariv, and they're learning together, a group of Yidden, right, Tem? And you're separating yourself. You're going to learn on your own. You're going to learn something else. The Alter Rebbe says, al yifresh, don't separate yourself. Learn together with everyone what they're learning. At that time, later on you can learn on your own, but at that time, learn together. The Alter Rebbe knew what we do, right? Some of us go outside. Don't go outside. If there won't be 10 without you, don't go outside. If you have to go outside, and there's 10, but if there isn't 10, because the importance of having a minyan for learning, as we learned in this beginning of the chapter, Shechina Shruya, so if you go out and there's only 9 left, you've taken away, you've removed kind of the Shechina, because there's only 9 now, not 10. For all of Ein Yaakov, the Alter Rebbe says, and upon him, for such a person, the Pasuk would say, God, those that forsake God will have an end. It's very severe. As the Razal say, for all matters of holiness, that when you need 10 people and you break the 10, it's a very severe thing. And by the way, it's important to know, because sometimes we go into a shul, they have a minyan, and you have a phone call, or you have a rush, your wife's waiting, or your kid's waiting, or this or that, and you go out in middle, and you leave them with 9. It's a very big no-no to do that. And yet there are excuses. You can, if you start the Shmoneh Esrei with 9, with 10, and then one goes out, you're still allowed to finish this message. We know all the excuses and all the ways into and out and heterim, but spiritually it's not right, because there's 10, there's Shechina Shruya, and when you go away and there's 9 left, you break that kedusha. That's what he says. There is no holiness as the holiness of Torah, because Hashem and His Torah are all one, and therefore there needs to be all of us together. And he goes back to this idea of separating yourself from the congregation and going out while the people are learning together, or not participating, and even if you're learning on your own, etc., is not appropriate. Now, the Rebbe promises, look at the end, the last 2 lines on page Kuf Lamed Zayin. And those that will listen to me, what I said in this letter, Yishkein Betach will rest assured, Uv'yamav uv'yameinu, in their days and in our days, Teshia, there will be salvation, Yehuda of Judah, of Yerushalayim, and Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, Tishkan Vetach, they will rest with peacefulness and tranquility. Amen. So be Ken Yehirotz, and so may be with the will of Hashem. I just want to say a few words, because it's Yud Shvat this coming Shabbos, and we won't be learning till Monday, Mitzvah Hashem. So this year becomes the 75th year that the Rebbe is our Rebbe. He started in 1950, although the formal acceptance kind of was a year later on the yahrzeit of the first yahrzeit of the Frierdiker Rebbe in Yud Shvat Tovshin Yud Aleph. But we know, as the Rebbe once spoke in 1983 by the Rashab, and he explained based on the Rambam in Halacha, that the moment the previous Melech passes away, the new Melech becomes the Melech, even though he's not yet anointed. And whatever. And the Rebbe based it on a Rambam, so we understand as well. He said this about the Rashab, that although the Rashab formerly sat on his father's chair 11 years after the Rebbe Marash passed away in 1882, and the Rashab didn't sit on the chair of his father until 1893, 11 years. Nevertheless, the Rebbe said that he became the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe 11 years before. So if the Rebbe said it about the Rashab, it definitely applies to him as well. That although formally he didn't become the Lubavitcher Rebbe as perceived by everyone until 1951, it started the moment the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away in 1950, Yud Shvat. And this year is 75 years. And I remember in 1980, I was at the Fabrengen, and that was the year, it was 30 years since the Rebbe's leadership, when Rabbi Soloveitchik, Rabbi Yasha Ber Soloveitchik, the great gun, going from the house of Brisk, at the time also the Rosh Hashiva of Yeshiva University, he came to the Fabrengen, and I made a clip about it. I don't know if you got a chance to look at it, but do so. I shared my memories and feelings. It was an awesome, once-in-a-lifetime experience. It was out of this world. We all have this, once-in-a-lifetime experience. This was one of those. But the message that we should live with now, as we go into the Yud Shvat, is that a Rebbe is here because he communicates the word of Hashem to Klal Yisrael, to all of Israel. And of course, people would like to have that begashmi as physically, where you could see and hear a Rebbe, in this case the Lubavitcher Rebbe. For most of us, myself included, it's hard to hear and see him, okay? Maybe there are those out there that can, but I'm not yet at that level. So, but the message is the same, okay? If you asked me when the Rebbe was alive, begashmius, did I have any special close connection talking to him every day? Absolutely not. Talking to him every day. I spoke to him, I think, 2 or 3 times in my entire life. Once in 1980 when I brought a bar mitzvah boy with his grandparents to Chasidus, and a few times online, the dollars, and also when I had my bar mitzvah. So maybe 5 to 10 times I spoke to him. But spoke to him very briefly, but I wrote, and I received answers that I have much more of. But even if one is born after Gimel Tammuz, or right, the idea is that a tzaddik, as we will learn in several weeks, Igeres HaKodesh Chav Zayin and Chav Ches, and if you learn that well and you understand it and you believe it and you live with it, the life of a tzaddik is emunah, ava, and yira. It's not gashmius. And as far as that's concerned, the Alter Rebbe brings from the Zohar, that's more active and real after a person's physical passing, including a tzaddik's passing, because he's not bound by the gashmius. Okay? And the stories are numerous. You've read them, you've heard them, you've had them, and it's real. It really is real. But you have to be sensitized to ruchnius, to spirituality. If you're not sensitized to ruchnius, or you don't want to be sensitized to ruchnius, then it's dark, and the person passes away, and there's nothing left, and on and on. You get morbid and upset. But if you understand that it's all a ruchnius, and it's like the Rebbe told, Rabbi Josh Gordon, who was the teacher on Chabad.org, thousands of people listened to him. The Rebbe said to the Gordon family, after the grandfather, Rabbi Yochanan Gordon, passed away, I think it was 1969, I believe. So the Rebbe said he went to an upper floor. There's the first floor, the second floor, and the third floor. The Rebbe said he left the first floor and now he's on the second floor. But he's on the second floor. So if you go to the second floor, you will find him there. If you don't go to the second floor, you ain't finding him there. You understand? The second floor is Gan Eden, Ruchnias, So this is a little bit about some thoughts to think about on Yud Shvat. And it's a day to, as the Rebbe said about his father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe's Yahrzeit is, of course, it's a day to learn his Torah and to support his institutions and to share it with your family and friends. The Rebbe made a very big point. And the main point that he said in the Maimer of Bosilagani, which we learn every year, and this year we're learning the 16th Ois, I believe, and 15th Ois, and we're learning Tafshin Chafhei, Tafshin Mem 1965, the Maimer 65, and the Maimer of 1985. The Rebbe said twice Maimorim on that chapter in Bosilagani. And the idea of the Bosilagani is making a dwelling place on earth. That's what we're doing. It's very nice to sit in a corner in Yerushalayim, in a kollel, and be locked up. And what does the world have from that? What does the world have from that? There's Yidden all over that could benefit from every person. So, of course, in addition to one's own learning, a person should share with others in any way possible. And I can tell you that Lev Yisrael Eirhu, the Jewish heart today is really awake and alert and looking for Torah and Chasidus. This Sunday I spoke at Yeshiva University and then later on at Young Israel in Teaneck, New Jersey. And the interest in Chabad Chasidus, I'm not talking about just the culture and stories, but the learning of Chasidus is a mainstay interest today, just a matter of having people teach it, so I remember when I started in Bet Shemesh in 2017, when we started the kollel, I remember how I met the rabbis and rabbonim, some who are still here, some who have gone on, and there was an openness to Chasidus. Rabbi Malinowitz, Olav Sholem, I always say this, but because it's the truth. He not only did he encourage me to give the Tanya shir in the shul, he nudged me. And he paid from his own money, I think, for ads in the handouts that you guys get at your homes. I forget what it's called, and he asked me to write up a course syllabus, which I did for the first 6 weeks. And when I finished that, I thought, okay. And then he sends me an email, Rabbi Dalfin, where is the course syllabus for the next 6 weeks? I said, Rabbi Malinowitz, the people that are already interested, we're going to continue learning each week for an hour in the evening, 9:15 or so. We used to, and he said, no. That's not gonna. I need to have it in the handout for people to see a half to full page ad, and it cost money, and he did it on his own. So and he wasn't a chassid, he I think liked Chabad, but he was not a chassid, And the point, this was 2017, 2025, 8 years later. It's only the kesher between Chasidus and non-Chasidus is much better. I'm not saying that, that a Litvak still isn't a Litvak and a Chasid is not a Chasid. I'm not going there, okay? That's not, you can always find people that are so narrow. But Baruch Hashem, a lot of people who were narrow have opened up their horizon. And this Sunday, these two events came from someone who's a prominent person in Teaneck, grew up in a Litvish yeshiva and, went kind of a little bit to the modern Orthodox way, although he's a, strong Talmud Chacham and everything else. And he started to learn Chasidus, and he had questions, and he wasn't he originally opposed Chabad, okay, but when he opened up and he started to learn Chasidus and to ask his questions and to listen, He says it's all, most of the stuff that he heard in his childhood, in his teenhood, is Baba Mice, is Narishkeiten. Chabad doesn't have wings, that there's sometimes a fanatic here and a cuckoo here and things like that. Every group has their fanatics and every group has their cuckoos, okay? That's part of the Jewish experience. So I'm on this campaign, Yud Shvat, that to make more shiurim Chasidus. If I was by you guys there, living there, I would try to have 5 shiurim in different shuls all over, and because the olam is ready, and it's just a matter. And you guys have teachers, Baruch Hashem. You have a yeshiva there now, and there's teachers. Rabbi Cohn, he's a big Talmud Chacham, and he speaks English well. So. Rabbi Farrell, even though, he's older and his health isn't great, he's a great Talmud Chacham, both in Nigla and Chasidus, so somehow you need to utilize that to bring them to the Litvische world, the Svardische world. I remember Yoini in this, I forget his name now, this Svarda guy who knows Tanakh by heart. He started to come Friday nights with his son to the Karlbach Shul, to your shul. Rabbi Sud, yeah. And I asked him, because there's Sephardic shul right near you up there, which I davened in Osen. It's very beautiful. And it's, at the time was much nicer and bigger, and he said, he wants his kid to be excited about Yiddishkeit, so he wants to see the way a real Friday night davening with the simcha is, and he came, and if he came every week, but my point is that the Sephardim also, they have their traditions, no question about it, and we have to respect that, but there's room there too to share Chasidus with them. Chevra, have a great Yom Tiv, a great Shabbos. We'll see everyone Monday morning. Oh, actually, no. Monday I have to Monday I have to travel, so I can't make it Monday morning. Tuesday morning, because this will be the shear. Gotta go travel. Yeah, gotta go. Yes, Himitz Hashem. Okay, see everyone Tuesday. Zai Gazut. Bye. Good Shabbos.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.